Latter-day Trumpet. This video is part of our second series of presentations about the Book of Mormon. Because the prophet Joseph Smith taught the early church leaders that the Lehi colony landed in South America, we have created this series of videos. Our theories and research is based on the truths from the Book of Mormon, but should not be considered as official church doctrine. Ancient Towers of the City of Cusco, Peru, the City of Nephi, by L. Norman Shurtleff, Part 1. This is a picture of the ancient capital city of both the Incas and the Nephites. Here's an artist's conception of the first mighty king of the Incas, Manco Capac, overlooking his capital city, the city of Cusco, Peru. The city was built after the design of the puma, or Andean mountain lion. The Chavan culture were the first people to inhabit this new land in 580 BC. According to archaeologists, the Chavan people were very tall and large and had white skin, which is a good description of the Nephites. In this video, we will discuss the ancient towers of the city of Cusco, Peru, our city of Nephi from the Book of Mormon. These ancient towers are one of the 15 characteristics of the city of Nephi that only correspond to one city in the Americas, that being the capital city of the Incas, which was known as the city of Cusco, Peru. These 15 characteristics are discussed in depth in our other videos of the city of Nephi. There are two locations for the tower. One very large tower was close to the temple, and the second set of towers was at the resort or refuge of the city. This ancient fort or resort we know today as the ruins of Sacsahuaman, located just north of Cusco, or the upper part of the newer part of the city of Nephi called Shimlon. Towers in the land of Nephi. One of the most important features of the city of Nephi and surrounding cities and lands is that the Nephites constructed towers as part of the defense facilities of their cities. Very tall towers gave them the advantages of having lookouts on duty to spot enemies in advance. This advance notice gave them the ability to avoid any surprise attacks by the Lamanites. A tower was built next to the temple in the city of Nephi. Towers were built in the city of Shemlon and at the fortress on the north of the city of Shemlon. These towers were mentioned several times in the Book of Mormon and were no doubt an important archaeological feature of Nephi's city for us in modern times to discover. The lower or older portion of the city of Nephi was the first of the two construction. The city of Nephi obviously had two constructive periods in its early development. The first, of course, started with its founder Nephi and continued until King Mosiah I led the Nephites out of the city and eventually to Zarahemla. So this older portion of the city of Nephi is where the temple is located, at the northern area of the center of the city at a high place. Archaeologists have also determined that Cusco has two distinct construction periods similar to the city of Nephi in Huron Cusco, or the older part of the city of the southern area of the city. Huron Cusco is the older city where the temple of Koricancha is located in the center or navel of the Puma city. The temple was the focal point of the old city, and it was the center of Nephi's universe. The upper or newer portion is the city Shiloh. The newer and upper portion of the city of Nephi was named Shiloh and was built by the people of Zenith and his son King Noah. This was Hanan Cusco, or the newer northern part of the city of Cusco. The Book of Mormon talks about these towers in Mosiah. It reads, "And it came to pass that he built a tower near the temple, yea, a very high tower, even so high that he could stand on the top thereof, and overlook the land of Shiloh, and also the land of Shemlon, which was possessed by the Lamanites. And he could even look over all the land round about," from Mosiah chapter 11, verse 12. It is important to note that evidence of the tower by the temple is now gone, but the temple of Nephi or Koricancha still exists today. So an important defining characteristic of the city of Nephi is a second stage of growth or construction done later by this wicked King Noah. It is a critically defining fact that the newer portion was on the north side of the old city, and the city of Shiloh was the newer addition on the north side, which included the resort or fortress at the northernmost boundary of the city. Now it is called the Fortress of Sacsahuaman. These defining characteristics spoken of here in these passages of the Book of Mormon point us again to the qualifications that only the city of Cusco, Peru possesses in its entirety. Mosiah goes on to say, "And it came to pass that he caused many buildings to be built in the land of Shiloh, and he caused a great tower to be built on the hill north of the land of Shiloh, which had been a resort for the people of Nephi at the time they fled out of the land. And thus he did do with the riches which he obtained by the taxation of his people." Mosiah chapter 11, verse 13. Another mention of the great towers of the city of Nephi was when wicked King Noah was chased by the ever-vigilant Gideon onto the ancient tower by the temple. Here are some aerial photos of the land of Nephi. Scripture goes on to say about wicked King Noah, "And it came to pass that he fought with the king. And when the king saw that he was about to overpower him, he fled and ran and got upon the tower which was near the temple. And Gideon pursued after him, and was about to get upon the tower to slay the king. And the king cast his eyes round about towards the land of Shemlon. And behold, the army of the Lamanites were within the borders of the land." From Mosiah chapter 19, verses 5 to 6. Summary of the city of Nephi. A good description of the city of Nephi can be formulated from the Book of Mormon and little hints that are found in the Scriptures. We have discussed the type of city that Nephi, the prophet, was likely to build, with its nice stone buildings and beautiful streets all laid out in perfect order with the guidance from God to his prophet. To fit the scriptural account, the city of Nephi would have to be a walled city with very high towers, a city with a secret passageways or tunnels, a city with an old and a newer section, a city with fountains and river, and a city with a history of being the chief or capital city of the empire. And finally, a city that was beautiful both in climate and scenery. The temple would be the focal point in this city. The temple would be at the center with the street and the city radiating out in all directions from the temple to the four quadrants. It would have been the navel and center of Nephi's universe. The city would have to be in an area where even if there were earthquakes and calamities, they would not have affected the overall construction of the city for centuries, as per the scriptural account. The need for protection for the city and its people would necessitate building a fortress or resort against attack from the Lamanites. So the neighboring city of Shiloh, with its fortress or resort and high towers, was an important attribute of the city and land of Nephi. The city went through continuous growth for 390 years and then a remodeling during the Zenith to Limhi period. So in essence, two distinct construction periods. It is fair to say that the city of Nephi became a great city that was the chief city or capital city of many civilizations down through the centuries to the present day. From the scriptures, we can readily visualize the city and the surrounding areas that became the home of Nephi and his people, the Nephites, and the towers that defined their city.